Hello, good evening. Welcome to a very busy day's edition of Upfront. Today, we will start off with what's currently the biggest story in the Republic of Ghana. That is former President John Dramani Mahama has once again said, I am contesting and I want to lead the NDC. I want to contest the election 2020. Bold decision that many saw coming, but is it a wise one? We sure will be asking the people who understand and appreciate some of these issues better. Then later on, we'll settle into that particular conversation. Do you have a home of your own? Do you have plans on getting a home of your own? What's the housing situation in the country like? And what are plans by the ministry to fix this permanently? And make sure that the chunk of the population, we only do not clear the deficit, but be able to make provisions for the future of this country. That is going to happen on Upfront today too. And we have our eyes still fixed on the historic engagement of the Asantehene with the Ochehene. And surely we'll be giving you updates on that too on a very well-packed show Upfront today. My name is Raymond Darko. After this break, I'll tell you who my guest in studio is and get to the phone lines pretty soon for a brief chat. Welcome back to Upfront. My name is Raymond Darko. Today, as I did tell you, we have a potpourri of issues to deal with. First, let's get to the phone lines and get to speak to Professor Alexander Kechi Dukupipon. He is actually a lecturer at the University of Ghana and he teaches political science. In the run-up to the 2016 election, he wrote that book, Elections in Ghana from 1954 to 2016. We should also be able to understand exactly, and many of the permutations he made were in connection with how the election was going to go. We will be able to give a better appreciation of what exactly President Mahama's interest in this election coming 2020 is going to be like, and the permutations that comes there. Prof, you're welcome to Upfront.
Raymond, one point of correction. I'm senior lecturer, not a professor.
Oh, okay. Of course, senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. I want us to start on this particular note. That's clearly to do with exactly what do you think are the chances of President Mahama in the election. I'm not talking about the NDC zone because many believe that's already a done deal. I'm talking about election 2020.
Okay. It's interesting, and let me begin from the point that it is his constitutional right to come back to contest, since he has not served 2 terms yet. I also feel that maybe he wants to make another history. He has made the first history as the first sitting president to lose. And maybe he wants to be the first to stage a comeback. That is also a good thing.
Yeah.
And within the party, like we have said, he has a name recognition, he has the resources to win within the party. But whether he will win 2020 is where the problem lies. And he said, given our history in the Fourth Republic, it appears it become a tradition that Ghanaians give the party which comes to power 2 terms. I'm talking of the party, not the presidential candidate. So if President Mahama is coming back, how is he going to manage the 10% or so defeats that he had previously? How is he going to manage that? Given the tradition that Ghanaians are more likely to re-elect MPP at the next election. So that is a big question I have.
Is that particular question not tampered with the claim that, I mean, after the first year in office, political parties tend to have some disaffection. They do some wrongs and some goods. And when you balance it, it looks like this is a very peculiar situation because we've not had, in the Fourth Republic, somebody who lost election previously, contesting the next election as president and now as a former president. Will that not change the circumstances and the permutations in this case?
Yes, it will change it somehow. It will change it somehow in the sense that this is the first time we are having this scenario. But if he is coming back, he is also coming back to some of the baggages, the baggage of the previous era. That's why I was making the point. How is he going to address the 10% gap previously as an incumbent, giving African politics, compared to coming out from outside? It's not a simple and straightforward matter. I'm also thinking that given what we have seen with these initial steps in their primaries, is it not going to be that more debt will be thrown at him by his own competitors within the party, which will spoil him more by the time he gets to the actual presidential election? And all these are things which will go into the contest.
And already, some of that started happening already. You can hear the words of the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Alban SKB Babin. He has actually...
exactly the point
Yes, he's been saying some of these.
He went to the last election as the incumbent president, virtually no challenge.
Yeah.
All the advantages of incumbency and so on. Now he has gone up and he's come down to fight these primaries. And primaries can be very dangerous. Your competitors will throw all kinds of debt at you and give weapon to your opponents in the next election. So all these are factors which will go into him going. But maybe if I could push this points up, he is coming in. And given the history that it may be difficult for him to win 2020, which means NDC has a better chance in 2024.
I see.
So my personal opinion was that if they brought a new face, and that new face, if he could not win 2020, they would have sold such a face to prepare him for 2024. That is my personal view, anyway.
Of course, and elections can surprise people. There are those who are already saying that after the internal elections, and let's be clear, this is the first time as President of the Republic, Mr. John Dramani Mahama would actually be going for internal party elections proper, because he was not contested in the previous one. And we have almost 8 people lining up to actually contest in this election. It includes somebody who was already attacking him, Alban SKB Babin. We also have others, including Professor Joshua Alabi, and all of these people. Is the NDC more likely to be divided after the primaries than united if Mr. Mahama is not part of the race?
I don't think they may be too divided. If eventually he comes up, they may have to rally behind him to attempt to have victory at the next election. But it will also depend on how brutal the fight for the flag bearership will be. If the campaign is so dirty, it may be difficult for them to come back. And for me, all these things are risks in which Mahama is putting himself. If he wins the primaries and does not win the election, what becomes of his status as another statesman?
I see.
And I'm wondering whether after that, Commonwealth will invite him to become a leader of the group. And so I'm thinking of all this. So for him personally, those are the issues I'm looking at. And for the party too, if he comes, and even if he wins, he has one term. That is in the very unlikely circumstance of that he wins. But if he loses, then it means NDC in the year 2024, where they are most likely to win, they will be coming with a new face. So if you ask me personally, I would wish they groom somebody for now for the almighty 2024.
Now, let me also ask you this question, which is about, now he's already thrown in the interest. He's already declared and announced that he will be contesting this election. If you are to advise him on what he can do to win, what are the things that he ought to do now till 2020, which is like some 2 years away, to be able to turn the ties you say are against him in his direction?
Okay. It will depend on how he relates with his competitors.
Okay.
And how best people in his own camp will not make the contest too divisive. But if they keep throwing stones at each other, it will be difficult after that to bring everybody on board. And as I've been observing, that was the picture I got with the unity work and so on and so forth. It became virtually a Mahama business. But looking at what I'm seeing, the arguments and counter-arguments and so on is going to be very difficult that way. And I also personally feel the MPP will have to do something very seriously bad to lose the next election.
Well, I guess we can leave it off here. And many thanks to you for sharing your thoughts with us on this particular show.
Okay, you are always welcome. Raymond.
Alexander Keche Duku-Frimpong teaches at the University of Ghana Department of Political Science. He's written a lot of books on electoral contest and what the chances has been. In fact, he's actually analyzed the role of defeating parties as against those who get into power and what they do to lose the election. He led, if you do recall, the 2016 reports that suggested that the NPP was going to win, you remember, and also suggested that the NDC needed to do some other things if he wanted to win on all of the plates. But you heard his views on exactly what is happening today. And so I do give you a recap of what has been happening. Former President John Dramani Mahama today sent a letter to his party, especially the General Secretary, announcing that I am ready to contest the election starting from the party's primaries. He also moved on to make it clear that his intent is to become the president of this republic in 2020. He put out a nice video which talked about why he's supposed to do so and his responsibility to the people of this republic and also to God to serve his nation in all capacities and capabilities till the time that he's unable to do so anymore. And the former president has one term to serve, and that has been elucidated properly in all the forms that you've heard it there. Now, I'll be coming in studio. Yes. Yes, so I'll get to the phone right away and get to speak to Junjo MP. And this man, Joseph Bipoba Nabu, is a critic of the former president. He is not excited of his quest to lead the party. But the former president did not listen to him. So let's hear his thoughts after the former president has declared. Honorable, you're welcome to UPfront. If you can hear me, Honorable, I mean, you were not so interested in he contesting, but it looks like the man is not interested in your advice either. Are you worried that the NDC, with Mahama possibly leading it, is not going to go far?
Well, I have no problem. I think former President Mahama has his democratic right to contest the election. He should be allowed to vote and be voted for. So it is his democratic right that he's exercising. So I don't have a problem with it. Whoever wins the NDC flag bearership, I think we'll go with that person. But let's wait until we get to the Congress. The Congress will determine.
The rallying call, looking at the numbers that met him there, looking at the huge numbers that have been speaking to this matter, is suggesting that, I mean, when it comes to internal NDC, Mr. Mahama is perhaps the most popular candidate and more likely to win the election.
Well, I want to tell you that crowd does not show that you are going to win an election, please.
I see.
Crowd doesn't show. Determine is the people who really going to vote to decide. People may just come to your rally. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to vote for you. So I don't want us to go to look at the crowd and then determine that is winning or not. So that is not the question. But
feasibly and the reality on the ground, apart from Mr. Mahama, who else has the competence and the qualification, not necessarily, but the popularity to be able to win this particular election?
Well, I cannot determine until the election is over. I want to tell you that in the contest, you can't determine who should win. In 2016, if you ask an NDC person, he will tell you or she will tell you that NDC was going to win. In that matter, Mahama was going to win. But when the results came, what happened? So we should not determine who will win until the election is over. So let's wait to the Congress. After the Congress, the winner will emerge. It is there that we know that this is the winner. So I wouldn't like to predetermine.
Okay, but it looks like, I mean, I've heard you. I heard you after the 2012 election. I heard you after the 2016 election. You were pretty clear in your mind that Mr. Mahama was not likely to win any further election. So those who are asking him to go. Yes, but it looks like
you're determined when we go to Congress. And let me tell you,
it looks like your stance is shifting. Your stance is shifting.
Mean that you've won 2020.
Yes, I get your point, but I mean, we are doing the primaries now. I'm saying that it sounds like your stance previously is different from what you are canvassing now. You are now saying that.
That's what I'm saying. I was just saying only my view.
Okay.
My view cannot determine whether former President Mahama could win or not. And my vote cannot make him to win or to lose. Yes.
So you no longer think that he will lose the election if he proceeds?
I am not saying that he will win or he will lose. I am only saying that let's get to the Congress. The Congress will determine, the delegates will determine who will win.
I see. Now, finally, before I let you go, let me get your thoughts on this matter too. The second Deputy Speaker of Parliament has been speaking tough about why the NDC lost the election and why the government did not function the way it ought to function. He has pinpointed some ministers who were misfits for the positions that they were given and other personal problems that Mr. Mahama himself led. Do you associate with the comments of Mr. Gbagben? Are they the reflection of the truth?
I'm with Honorable Gbagben campaign team.
I see.
Wherever he went, I went with him. And I was the right-hand man of him.
Okay.
And I will continue to stand by him.
I see.
After the election, if he wins or he loses, and whoever emerges the winner of NDC Congress, we all will join hands.
I get your point. Now, the question I'm asking is whether you identify with the comments that he made and whether these comments...
That's what I'm saying, that I am with him when he was making those comments.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm distancing myself from it. I am with him.
And you find nothing wrong with those comments?
I see nothing wrong with it.
Even when he says that Estama was made an information minister, which to him was inappropriate.
But was it true or not?
But the question really is, does it matter? I mean, of what relevance is whether or not the person has a speech impairment or deficiency in becoming a minister in this republic?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Former President Mahama has done his best, to the best of his ability and his knowledge.
Okay.
And let's see, when we go for NDC Congress, if he wins the Congress, that doesn't necessarily mean that he will win 2020. And the 2020 would also determine winning the Congress. NDC Congress is a different thing winning general election in 2020.
I get your point. I just spoke to a political scientist who said he would have preferred Mr. Mahama did not contest at all so that a new person will be taken through the mill this time around, and maybe in 2024 the person may have a brighter chance.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
That is my view. That is my view, certainly. But my view or my point should not be the final decision. So he has come to contest. He is going to contest. So let us see how the outcome of the election will go when we go to Congress. At this time, I don't want to predetermine, neither to prejudge.
Honorable, I guess we can leave it off here, and I'm very grateful for you joining us on Upfront today. I'm very appreciative for your thoughts today, too. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And, well, Mr. Bipoba Joseph Nabu is a member of parliament for Junjo. He is supporting the Honorable Alban Sumano Kingsford Gbagben, who is also shown interest in contesting together with some other 7 others. And to be clear, if you add President Mahama to it, so far we have almost 9 declaring their interest to contest that election. The rest, I'm sure you've heard, includes Sylvester Mensah, the former Trades and Industry Minister, who is in the person of Ecos Bill Gabra, and also others who have in various means declared that this is a contest they want to be part of. Well, we should be coming back to that issue, but I did tell you that we have a conversation to do. The Honorable Frida Pempe is a Deputy Minister of Works and Housing. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's not your party, but I want your comment on it. The former President Mahama is actually now in the race. He's clearly being seen as the leading guy. He's more likely to win the election. Is that surprising to you?
Well, in your intro, I heard you said that he's taking a bold decision.
Yes.
Is it a bold decision or a desperate decision?
I mean, to be bold?
No, I think he's rather taking a desperate decision. He's just trying to tell his people that I think when you give me the opportunity, I'm likely to win the seat again for us. Yeah. And the president has been an assemblyman before.
Yes.
He's been a sitting member of parliament before. He's been a deputy minister before. He's been a minister of state before. He's been a vice president and a president. And he lost the elections miserably with about 1 million votes. So what is he bringing you to the party, the NDC party? I think that he's just trying to, trying to make amends somehow for them to see that maybe if we give him another opportunity, I'm likely to win the primaries. But to win the 2020, I'm sorry, it's unfortunate because the NDC MPP is working very well. And I believe that even if we put all the 8 people or 9 people together, MPP will still win in 2020. So there's
a lot of confidence in that particular statement.
Of course, yes, because I know the good programs, the social intervention policies, the programs that my party has put in place. So I know very well that Ghanaians have embraced the MPP government, just to talk about the free senior high school, that yes. People think it's just about free senior high school. When you go to my constituency, the Tano constituency in the Brahafo region, and you go to Mankranho and Akokwabo and Etrudiobesa in those places, and you see the people who have been at home for the past 2-3 years now are back in school. Then you know what we are talking about when you say free senior high school. Go back to the constituency and I see how many people have benefited from the forestry guards projects that we put in place. They're planting for food and jobs. Already? They've started already in my constituency. I have more than 600 people working. I have about 400 people working as planting for food and jobs, pollinators and all that. The NAPCO. The NAPCO is taking about 150,000 graduates off the streets now. So we are talking about people who have come to work for the good people of Ghanaians. President Mahama has been in government for so long a time, from NDC to PNDC to NDC to President Mahama as a vice president and as a president. What did he bring you and what is he bringing you?
If he's eventually going to lose, why would you have a problem with him contesting?
I don't really have a problem with him losing or winning. Whoever emerges as their winner out of their primaries has got nothing to do with me. Mine is to stay focused and work for my party as MPP. And that's what I'm going to work on. Whether it's Albin Babin, it's Joshua Labi, Sylvester Mensah, or the former president who lost the last elections, whether they put the 8 of them or the 9 of them, I don't really mind. You just talked about 8 or 9 of them. They've just picked their nomination forms. Yes. You don't even know how many people will file eventually. Yeah. Maybe they will do some consultation and dialogue and compromise here and see how best they can come out with their best candidate. But as I sit here, I don't know, and I don't think that President Mahama is the best candidate for them. Of course, yes. Because
so who will be the best candidate? You
sold President Mahama to Ghanaians. Yes. They didn't buy him. So why are you bringing back? He was
incumbent president. He was elected in 2012.
That's the more reason why one would have thought he would even win. Because they campaigned on infrastructure, they campaigned on this, but the corruption was so huge that the corruption covered the so-called infrastructure. Because when you look into their green book, some of the infrastructure projects are not even there to be found.
But isn't it instructive as we speak to them? Nobody has actually been jailed for corruption under the John Dramani Mahama.
Well, that's what I hear. That's the song I hear from them.
But it's true, currently.
No, but you can't just get up and say they are taking Raymond to court. You need to do.
I was not in the administration.
I'm not talking about Raymond sitting here. Yeah. You can't just get up and say that I'm taking UPfront to court or I'm taking Kwesi Okweku to court. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for Christ's sake, it's a renowned lawyer.
Oh, okay.
So he needs to put his cards together. That's why the Attorney General is working. So as for the trumpeting, the song, the news that they talk about, that you said you take us to court via corruption and all that, you're not taking any of us to court. Let's wait and see those who go to court. And when we get there, we'll see how it rolls. But I think that this is a very desperate decision for President Mahama, the former president. And like what the last speaker said, until the last ballot is counted, you can't say that you are winning. That is politics for you. So you wait for the last ballot to be counted.
It was pretty obvious that Nadu was going to win the MPP slot for the year 2016. I'm sure many know that. It's pretty obvious going to be like this.
That's why I'm saying that until the last ballot is counted, you can't be sure. So as for the crowd pooling, you can just pay people to come and support you to file your nomination or to pick a form. It doesn't really count. Let's wait for 2020. Let's go to the polls and see how it rolls. Whether you are going to win the primaries is one matter, and whether you're going to win the 2020 is another issue. But, well, he always wants to make history. He's the first president to lose, a certain president to lose as a president. And now maybe he wants to go to the primaries and, well, lose the primaries again. Okay. If he happens to win anyway, there's no guarantee that he's going to win 2020. So maybe he wants to make another history by losing in 2020 again. And
to be fair, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to win 2020.
Oh, I am very hopeful, and I'm very sure that by dint of hard work, MPP will retain a seat in 2020. No two ways about that.
I get your point. Now, let me move on to the other happenings that are very interesting in this country today. The Asante moved from Menchia to Chebi. And there was an event that was supposed to commemorate Oforiatta, the first, his anniversary. And it was interesting and colorful. It was a prominent historic event. So historic Mahama picking up nomination and declaration of interest. And historic...
No, I don't see Mahama's nomination as historic.
If he gets to contest, he would have been the only
he's not
former president.
They've not yet gone for the election, so let's wait for the election. Then they become history.
I get your point.
And I think I watched him on telly. He visited the former president, President Rawlings. What did he go to do there? To seek his support?
No, consultations. You do it widely. I mean, even the
this time he needs the president's support, or he has to consult with the consultation.
Yes, but it's never stated that he won't consult.
And the president also said they lost the elections far back when they started playing the Ponka games long ago in Sunyani.
Really?
No, they lost it at the time.
I see.
So they were just trying to cover up. Well, let me say that today's event is rather the historic one. Tradition at its best, very colorful. And for the two prominent chiefs to come together, the two first Asante, I understand, came with about 100 chiefs in about 15 VIP buses. So the whole Menchia, I would say, was in Chebi this morning. It was so colorful and it was so touching to see the Chebi Nana Ofori
Penny
Amwetia,
yes,
and my own grandfather Otumfo, and the president, of course. I think on this note, I would like to say a very big thank you to the president, because I believe that of course, the president
Akudafo,
he must have played some role. You wouldn't know what has gone on behind the scenes. It didn't happen in a vacuum.
These are two traditional leaders.
Two traditional
One
chiefs.
first visited the other. They played golf. There was an extension of some form of invitation to the other.
The traditional chiefs.
I am unclear in my mind
how... The traditional chiefs have been there for years.
Yes.
The Chebi has been there. The Otumfo has been in Ashanti for a long time. They've never come together to play golf. They have never come together at Chebi before. This has happened under the leadership of the president, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, who also comes from Chebi.
Take credit for it.
I'm not saying that he can. I'm not saying he should take credit, but I'm giving him the credit as well.
Really?
Because, of course, because we know.
So, do you know whether he played any role?
I believe he must have played a role, because
the belief is different from the reality.
He's a statesman. He's the president of this country. He comes from Chebi, and I don't think that Nana Akufo-Addo would want to sit back and stay as the president and look on to see some of the happenings between the Ashantis and the Chebis for a long time. Probably he's a statesman. He's been there for a while. So definitely, maybe I think I have a very strong intuition that...
But you are a minister of state. You have intuitions.
Yes, I do that.
You can't state that for a fact.
This did not happen under President Mahama. It did not happen under President Rawlings.
It could have happened under anybody.
It did not happen under President Kofo. It happened under President Akufo-Addo. And we should give him the credit.
Everything that
wherever you're coming from, I think Nana must have played a role, and I think he deserves to be praised. I mean, it was so colorful.
Which role could he have played in this case?
I don't know what has gone on behind the scenes, but I have a strong intuition that definitely, when they went to Kumasi to play golf, Nana was also in Kumasi. Right?
Yes.
And I saw the pictures, and this afternoon, the way the Ochihini came in his palanquin, then the Otumfo, I mean, it was so colorful. And I think it's something that young people should also learn from. I don't think politics and traditional things should divide us. We are all one people. We come of one. We all have the same blood in us. So no matter where you are coming from, no matter who you are, I think politics should not divide us.
Was the MPP afraid that
this union, it's very historic
between Asante Man and the Ochi man was likely to affect the party's chances? There is history to it. In fact, the rift between Victor Usu's side and Pauli's side, many think, caused the party the 79 election. the seeming rift between former President John Kufuor and also current President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who both aligned to these ethnic groupings, is also something that is instructive. Was it the idea that the president, together with virtually all ministers, go to Chebi to support this and make it symbolic and send a signal that we are finally united? There's no Achem Mafia, there's no grouping in Kumasi that's going to scatter the chances of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I
don't know about the rift between President Kufuor and Nana Akufo-Addo on this call. Talking about the Achems and the Ashantis and whatever. We are all accounts anyway. Yes, whether you are Fanti, you are an Achem, you are an Ashanti, we are all accounts.
But this is historically documented.
I think it's a perception. I don't know the kind of rift that you are talking about.
So if it's perception, why then the furore and the euphoria surrounding this meeting?
Each one of us is entitled to his or her perception. The euphoria, it's historic. Bringing these two people together because of some things that have gone on or the perceptions that have gone on, it's historic. That's why I'm saying that no matter how you look at it from, I think some credit has to go to the president.
Yeah.
Whether it's Achim or it's Ashanti or Zakan, some credit has to go to him. And I think even if he played a role, then he's rather played a very good role in reuniting and bringing the his in-law back to Chebi. You know, the Otumfuo's wife also comes from that part of Achem, Lady Julia. So it's like, apart from everything, the intermarriages have even brought us, all of us together. So the wife, you are our in-law, our brother-in-law, or father-in-law, or sister-in-law, whatever, we are all one people. So let the young people learn something from what happened in Chebi today. Okay. There's no rift between Ashantis and Achems. We are all one people. And it was such a delight to see the Ochehene and my own grandfather, Otumfuo, coming together. And you see the joy and the pleasance in Otumfuo's, whatever he did. And all the entourage.
I see.
Over the weekend, I was in the constituency to celebrate Salah with my people on Tuesday. And I met my chief, the Yamfo Mahine, who said he was coming to Chebi.
Okay.
So a lot of people even came from the Brown Half region to support this whole historic event. So it's a good thing that came up today. And it's one history. When you're talking about history, there's history, not the desperate move to contest for the primaries for the NGC.
Before we roll over to the housing conversation, let me read some of the comments we are having on our Facebook live feed, which is on JoyNews, and some of them, some praise, that's the name, says, "Thank you, madam. I'm grateful my president is not thinking about the next election, that's 2020, by thinking about the next generation, that's youth. He's very focused." That's what some praise is actually saying out there. Kwesi Asumani Jr. said, "All MPP knows is taking credit for what they have not done." And that is what he put there.
But what did Kwesi do?
Yeah, yes. I can't wait to respond to some of these. Boachi Adon Bernard says, okay, so please, what name will be given to him? Former president or president? In this case, talking about if he's president, he's president. If he's former president, he's former president. And Moses Bello Bimpon says, nothing is working in Ghana. Check the CD to dollar rate under your so-called economic messiah, and you are doing politics with Otumfuo's visit as an achievement. I rest my case. That is Moses Bello with a comment there. And the other one says, Abdul Samed Ibrahim said, fear grab them when they hear JDM is contesting the 2020 elections. Then they start making comments about him willy-nilly. Come 2020, victory is for the NDC. Okay, so this is also another one to do with whether or not the comments from your end honest and representative of the facts on the ground. And also, you can also send us. You can also do so on Twitter too, where you can hear some thoughts from you on exactly how this most important decision by John Dramani Mahama is going to go and what we are rolling over to. So the crux of our conversation today is the housing sector. Yeah. It's how Ghanaians can get a place to put their heads. Yeah. And we've seen and we've been told we have a huge housing deficit. Exactly what's the current housing deficit?
Well, as it stands now, we've been talking about 1.7 million as the housing
I've been mentioning that since 2007.
Yes, but I've always said that if you want to find out the exact number, then we need to do a comprehensive research to find out exactly how the figure stands as at now. But I think that we've even gone beyond 2 million.
Okay.
Because our population has also gone up to close to 30 million. So we cannot still be talking about 1.7 million, which is a problem. I've always said that housing is very important. We cannot rule it out. Shelter, food, and clothing is very basic that everybody needs to take it very serious. Housing affects your education, it affects your health, it affects the upbringing of your children, it affects your economic empowerment. Wherever you live will determine even your future. Because if you live in a slum, or you live in around maybe East Legon or in a prime area, the upbringing of your children, the way they go to school, their health and all that matters. So housing, it's a very serious project that every government or every Ghanaian needs to talk about. But unfortunately, because of our population, demand for housing, it's always more than the supply.
Okay.
Now, so if you're talking about 1.7 million, then you need to be putting up more than 100,000 houses a year, which of course it's a very difficult one because it's a...
And even in that case, it may take us almost, 70 years to then fill this gap.
That's the point.
The backlog.
Yes,
not taking into consideration the new numbers, the 2.5% population increase and all of that.
So it's a capital, it's a capital intensive area where government alone cannot shoulder it. That's the more reason why the government is creating an enabling environment to partner with the private sector to put up more houses for the good people of Ghana. The MPP government under Kufuor administration in 2005 started affordable housing project. We started one in Koforidua, one in Tamale and Wa, then in Kumasi, Asokore Mampong, and in Accra, Botema and Mpong. Unfortunately, our predecessors couldn't complete those projects. We are back in government. We've worked so hard behind the scenes to get back on track to complete those houses in Koforidua, Wa, and Tamale. The ministry is also in the process of rolling about 100,000 houses within the next 5 years in partnership with some private investors, Homa Homes. The government is also working...
100,000?
Yeah, 100,000.
Okay. Now, forgive me, I don't want to cut you off track. I just want to be clear in my mind. The John Dramani Mahama administration around 2015 or so said SNIT was taking over these affordable houses and completing them. Has any of them been completed? We learned of Saglemi, which was
Saglemi is not part of the affordable housing projects that was given to SNIT.
Okay.
They worked it out with the Boteman one and the Asokore Mampong one. The Asokore Mampong one is not yet completed. It's about 70% complete. The Boteman one, they have completed it, but unfortunately, because of the way they signed the MOU with SNIT, the prices have gone up. And people are finding it difficult to even purchase from SNIT. It's now not under the ministry, it's under SNIT now. Okay. So I visited there.
Does a housing unit cost?
I visited there about a month ago, and a lot of blocks out there that people are not even buying. Initially,
it was for sale?
It was for sale. Initially, under the Kufuor administration, it was about, the 2-bedroom was going for $25,000 at the time. That time, the dollar was 1 to 1. But when they gave it out to SNIT...
After the redenomination?
Yes, they...
Yeah, but the dollar became 1 to 1 after the redenomination.
The initial price was 220,000 old cedis.
Okay.
And we had to talk to SNIT.
For a 2-bedroom?
For a 2-bedroom. Now they've reduced it to 150,000 Ghana cedis, which people think is still on the high side. You need to have some mortgage to be able to purchase from them. And you know, Ghanaians are not really up to the usage of, mortgage system. We are now trying to do the advocacy in that direction. People think that, why don't I find money to go and pay off than going through mortgage and paying for so long a time with this interest rate and all that. So that's another issue. So Botema 1 year is completed, it's out on sale. If you can walk to the marketing department at SNIT, you can put in an application. But then they only
so the 150,000?
Yes, and they have only, I think, 3 months to pay.
You have 3 months to pay 150,000. So you're supposed to pay 50,000 per month.
Per month.
And so that's supposed to be affordable.
Well, it's supposed to be affordable. But I think that what I advise people to, especially organized groups and institutions, the last time I visited, I realized that the Ghana Armed Forces had purchased about 6 blocks for some of the soldiers. And I believe organized groups like the police or the National Association of Teachers, the Nurses Association, they have all kinds of welfare groups. They can put themselves together and purchase some of these block of flats for their staff. Okay.
Now, you also mentioned that government was going to, sorry, I was making the point about 150,000 not being affordable at all. I mean, that ought to be made clearly, that no person
Yeah, but even that's
the conception of affordable
the
housing.
The 150,000 is less than $40,000, right?
Yes.
And you don't get any private home selling for 40,000.
Just 2-bedroom.
Yes, you drive around Accra. There are a lot of homes crying for buyers. Yeah. Go to Roman Ridge, go to Laboni, Cantonments.
But that's why they're not being bought.
They're not being bought because the prices are too high.
Roman Ridge and Co. They are not for the affordable range of people.
They're too high.
Yes.
So you cannot compare them to that of government. That's what we are trying. You see, when you talk about affordability, it depends on so many factors come into play.
Really?
Of course.
I thought that the standard definition was a percentage of your, what they call income going into it, into housing.
No, by international standards, you cannot even pay more than 30% of your income as mortgage. That is one. But apart from that, the location of the projects is a contributing factor. The kind of technology is a contributing factor. So many factors come into play. That's why we're advocating that when you come to Ghana, Ghana is endowed with a lot of resources. So why should we build houses at so huge prices when we have about 90% of our building materials we can find in Ghana? So we're advocating that industry players should use local materials. They should think of exploring new technologies. When you travel outside, they don't have clay, they don't have timber. What do they have? But cost of housing is not so huge as in Ghana.
I see.
So we need to think through it and see how best we can bring the cost of building down. That's where the issue is.
Okay.
Because if you employ the use of new technologies, there are people who have come through my office and they tell me that they can even put up a 2-bedroom house within 2 weeks, within a month, because of the prefabrication, that kind of thing that they have in the developed countries. You go to the US, you go to the UK, almost all the houses.
Sorry, the 2 months 2-bedroom house, how much will they cost?
It depends on the technology. That's why I'm saying that if you are using our old traditional and conventional way of building, brick and tile and all that, definitely it will be more expensive than you using different kind of technologies or a prefab kind of thing. So this time we are advocating that our industry players should explore the use of new technologies so that they'll be able to bring down the cost of building.
I did hear you also make some reference, and of course you said that the government was going to put together 150,000 units building.
100,000 within 5 years. And
within 5 years.
We are also working.
But that's way below the
Yes, I'm putting request. 1 and 2 together. I'm talking about Homa Homes, working with them to put up 100,000. We are working.
And this is where?
It's going to be across the country.
And when is it going to start?
Oh, plans are far advanced. It's going to roll.
I know when government officials say plans are far advanced, it means that virtually nothing has been done.
We are also working with Sino Hydro to also put up 40,000.
Oh, the Chinese
houses for the security services. Umbata.
Yeah.
Why not?
You are going to have a better arrangement.
I said earlier on, Ghana is endowed with a lot of resources. We have gold, we have bauxite, we have diamond, we have cocoa, we have everything. So why should we sit on all these things and go borrowing all the time when we can make use of our resources? We can add value to our resources so that the good people of Ghana can also benefit from our resources. Okay, so now let me, because I want us to go systematically so I have a proper evaluation of what the current situation is supposed to be. We are going to engage a group, and you mentioned the name, to do 100,000 houses. Yeah. Do you know when it will start? That's why I said plans are far advanced. Will they start this year? Hopefully, we are working behind the scenes seriously. We have been hoping that we'll be able to put up some few units in every district. So we are working with members of parliament. We've asked them to forward to our office. I'm working on that project. If they have, we don't want to go for lands that are litigations on. So if they can give us lands between 10, 15 acres in every district, we are working with other partners to put up some of these affordable houses in the districts to ease pressure on the urban areas. So I asked you a question about the affordable housing project that Kufuor started that Mahama said will complete, whether any of them have been completed so far. That's why I said they handed over the Boteman one to SNET. Yeah. So SNET has completed that one, but they haven't finished with the Sokori Mampong one in Kumasi. But as for the Koforidua and Tamale, they were just left out there in the drain. So we are working very hard to revamp the place. As for Saglima, it's a different ballgame.
Okay, I get your point.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I want to also get this part clarified. During the budget reading, there was this reference to some form of mortgage arrangement also for workers using pension and other things. I mean, let's understand what that housing structure is supposed to be.
Yeah,
like.
definitely. If you want to use the pension fund to set up housing fund to ensure that your investors, every investor would want to know his return on investment anyway, and every worker would want to find a place to lay his or her head when he goes on retirement. So there's nothing wrong dipping our hands into the pension fund to support the housing industry, but then it has to go through Parliament again. So I believe that some stakeholder engagements are going on, and at the right time, it will go through Cabinet, back to Parliament, then we'll take a decision on that.
Now, there's this important question, and that ought to be asked. The Akufo-Addo government has been in office for almost 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
It's not put up a single housing unit.
No, we have agencies working under the ministry.
Oh, okay.
We have the State Housing, we have the Tema Development Company, we have, when I tell people that I have agencies like Rent Control and PWD under my ministry, where other ministries have the likes of Boston, MPA, Gridco, VRA, ECG, and all that. I have a PWD, Rent Control, Engineering Council, Architectural Registration Council, the Hydrological Survey Department, and the TDC, and the Tema Development SHE. Last 2 weeks, Monday, my boss assisted the Vice President to cut the sort for 320 units for the Ghana Police Service at Tesano. I was in Kumasi on the same Monday to cut another sort for the construction of another 300 in Kumasi at a Krofrom with the President. And that estate is even going to be named after the former president. He started the affordable housing project, and he hails from a Krofrom, and I understand he even assisted us to get that parcel of land for the construction of the affordable houses there. So we are working behind the scenes, and very soon we see a lot of units springing up. Apart from that, we also
not this year.
This year.
This year.
This year. Apart from that,
about completion. I mean, as in a completed.
Oh, but definitely you can't if you are not doing if you are not using prefabrication kind of thing, you can't use brick and tile and complete within 6 months.
Yeah, but
so that's why we want.
Government has been in power for 2 years.
That's why we want our industry players to incorporate. If it's not purely prefab, we can incorporate some kind of prefabrication into brick and tile kind of building, so that we can. I don't want to talk about what is going on now, but we are working.
I'll come to
working behind the scenes.
But give me a second. Let me take a break.
I can tell you that maybe one day you open your eyes and I'll take you to a site to see about 1,000 houses springing up within the same time.
I'll be very hopeful, but
yes.
Let me take a break and I'll be back. We're having a conversation that's been varied in nature, but the crux of it is housing, which is currently ongoing with the Honorable Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Frida Pempe. You're welcome back to UPfront, and we'll be having a conversation. We start off by getting to know what's with President John Dramani Mahama's declaration of interest to contest the 2020 elections, first and foremost to lead the NDC to that particular election. And also we moved into the big thing happening at that moved Menchia to Chebi, and the inauguration or the celebration of life of Nana Seforiata the first. In this case, the Asante who was there, very colorful event. The entire government, I mean, if I'm not exaggerating, a huge chunk of the government had to move there to witness this very important event. But we moved back to housing because my guest is a deputy minister in that particular ministry. So far, she's been outlining what government has been doing about the housing problem in the country, far-reaching, very huge, and very big problem in this country. Now, let me bring you some thoughts from Facebook as I've gathered them. This one says 150,000 Ghana cedi for 2 rooms. Please be clear, how can NAPCO beneficiary afford this? Okay.
We didn't sign the MOU with SNET, so we cannot agree on the price.
You pushed it down.
Initially, it was 220, so we had to talk to SNET to push it down to 150.
Would you want to reduce it further?
I would want to reduce it further, and I've been championing that cause seriously.
Okay, so that's interesting to know. This one says, if they do, then the government must clearly increase the NAPCO allowance. So they're saying that People on Upcook may not be able to afford this. And there's one says lip service is what's being talked about in this case. And one also in the name of Kofi Asare-Bediako. Kofi pities former President John Dramani Mahama on his intention to contest the election. And those are some of the messages you actually have given us. So far, Faith Tay also sent a message about hypocrites. And Abdul Samad Ibrahim is also talking about, yes, how you mentioned the issue to do with we've been given lip service on the things that ought to be done. Now, we're in the throes of talking about the other projects that are ongoing. You said that we may wake up one morning to realize that
so we are working behind the scenes.
But see, government may not have all the resources, because it's pretty clear. When I see your ministry's budget,
infrastructure ministries too is like peanuts.
Yes.
91 million Ghana cedis cannot even do anything. We are talking about works and housing.
Yeah, that's where
the works part is another huge capital intensive area.
Actually, that's where I was coming to, that it sounds like virtually all your projects might be in the hands of private sector people, and if they fail, government may not be able to deliver on these promises.
Well, I said earlier on that housing is a very capital intensive area. In every part of the world, government cannot shoulder it alone. That's why you have to partner with the private sector. So create an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive under that area. And that's why, as a ministry, we are trying our best to ensure that we partner with the private sector, like I said. But apart from putting up new houses, we're also doing a lot of redevelopment and infilling across some of our areas. You know, when you go to Roma, rejoin the Nkrumah area, they built one house on huge, you know, 1 acre of land. So we are redeveloping the land where we can put up about 16 houses on an acre, 16, you know, units on an acre of land. You know, so we are trying to make use of the lands in our prime areas as well. So we're doing some infilling as well and redevelopment.
I see. So, and these are supposed to deliver how many units?
Oh, it will deliver a lot of houses, but not as many as we would want to.
But I hope this will not be shared among politicians, their friends and family.
Those that we've completed, we've started giving them out to civil servants as well, directors and medical doctors who apply to the ministry. We are giving them out. But it's unfortunate that government has over 1,000 houses in Accra alone. Yeah. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have been retired and are still staying in government bungalows. They don't even want to move. Some have retired, they've given their bungalows to their friends, you know, their family members. Some don't even have any allocation to where they live. Some don't pay anything to government. They are living in government bungalows. So I've had to go after them. There are times over the weekends I drive around myself.
Government is... So what's been done? Because
to ensure that if you're on transfer to Kumasi, and you'll be given a government bungalow in Kumasi, I don't see why you should also keep on to the one in Accra. Leave your family member or your sister in that bungalow at Roman Ridge or Laboni and still occupy government bungalow in Kumasi. That is not right. And once you start going after them, you try to sanitize the system, they think that the deputy minister is going, you know, doing too much. They think that should sit in the office.
I just want to know, is that happening?
It is happening.
And how many people have you removed from places they are supposed to live?
By the grace of God, I've removed a lot of people from some of these bungalows. And recently, I was around, we have some bungalows around the police headquarters. We call that area Nigeria Flats. About 60–70% of the people living there, we don't even have records on them. And they've lived there for years. I'm organizing myself. I've served them letters. I've given them 1 week. The 1 week has elapsed, and then very soon we'll go after them and evict them all from the place. Because if you are a civil servant, you work for the Ministry of Health or Ministry of whatever, we should have a data on you in our office so that at the end of the day, the deductions can be made. When I started this exercise, one day I was able to raise more than 85,000 Ghana cedis in my office. They ran to the Bank of Ghana to pay, and they brought the slips to the office. So they know what is right, but they are just refusing to do what is right. So
are these people illegal occupants?
I would say they're illegal occupants. And the worst of it all, that they don't even maintain the bungalows.
Oh, okay.
The spirits, the culture of maintenance is not part of their vocabulary. A lot of government bungalows have gone down the drain, and government would have to use the taxpayers' money to bring it back to life and renovate and maintain the houses. I've always said that if you live in a government bungalow, that is where you live. That is your identity. I used to work with the Ghana Prison Service. I lived on the Block B near the prison headquarters. Anytime you pass through Block B, close to the headquarters, you see that I've painted my 1-bedroom corner there. When you go to my kitchen, I tiled my kitchen, I tiled the toilet and bath. Some of my friends felt that, well, this is a government, so why do you have to do that? But I thought that that's where I was living. So if Raymond should visit me, you are coming to that corner of mine. So I should make sure that corner of mine looks good. But people living in government bungalows, unfortunately, do not take good care of it. And I'm raising this issue, and I am hoping that my minister and, for that matter, cabinet will take it up as a policy that if you are the estate manager or estate officer, or you are supposed to, or you are in charge of government bungalows, and you sit back for those bungalows to deteriorate, you have to be surcharged. Okay,
that's an interesting development. But I want to find out, I mean, what's the rent policy again? What do you want to put in place? Rent is a big issue. People are paying illegally 2 years and all of the huge amounts. There's really no standard price for renting in this country. Because you members of parliament also take 4-year rent at a go. And yet, I've heard your minister say that 1 year is what you want people to pay.
No, we are not saying we want people to pay 1 year. The rent law, as it stands now, says that you're not supposed to take more than 6 months rent advance. And you know, the rent law was promulgated in 1963 at 220. I think you agree with me that it has really outlived its usefulness. So it's been there for over 55 years. So definitely needs to be reviewed. So that's what we are doing now. We've done a lot of stakeholder engagement. These are some of the issues that came up during the stakeholder engagements. People were advocating for 1 year instead of 6 months. Other people were advocating for. It will surprise you to know that some people really thought that if I find money to pay for the 2 years, then I will have some respite for 2 years. Then after 2 years, I'll go and look for another money and pay. But if I have to pay every 6 months, that means I need to find money all the time.
So have we decided on the period?
Well, it's still before the subcommittee in Parliament, in Cabinet. They are working on it. And when they are done, it will go through the Ages Department before it comes back to Parliament.
Will we start from MPs? Will we pay MPs only the 1 year and not 4 years?
Well, if that's what will come out of.
I want your view on that one too.
My view, I can't sit here and speak for my colleagues, but I think that...
Speak for the people of this republic.
Yes, I think that something really drastic has to be done.
Okay.
Because if you really want to curb this rent issue down, then we need to build more houses. One demands a strict supply, definitely the landlords and the landladies will always have a field day, because I have my 2-bedroom apartment and I want to rent it out for 2 years. So if you don't have 2 years, the other people looking for it anyway. So there's nothing more you can do. But the only thing that we can do to help solve some of these issues and to break the monopoly is to build more affordable houses.
I've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Honorable Frida Pempe was my guest on Upfront today. Thanks, folks, for being with us.